And usually I get a chance to talk a lot, but I'm going to keep this brief because tonight is not about the mayor and Bill Lambert. So with that, we will move on to recognitions and comments from our outgoing council members, and that being Jim Boland and Kathryn Bonzo. And I'm going to start with Jim first. He's our council president. And Jim, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank all my colleagues that have served up here with me. It's been great to work with you all. It's been a really collegial group to work with. And I want to thank the city staff for always having information that we needed to make good decisions for the community and for carrying out the decisions that we make. I appreciate that very much, and I think that's what makes Moscow a great place to live. I've been on the council for 5 years, and in that time, a number of things have happened that I think are positive. We've got the airport realignment done. We got a restroom in downtown. We have a bridge across 3rd Street. We have an underpass under Highway 8. Had a number of parks finished, including Blackbird Station. We got the police station bond passed. We got the Joseph Ball fields up and running, and we've got some new fire trucks. And all that's happened because of good priority-based budgeting and strategic planning that we put in place over the last 5 years. And so I'm very proud of what's happened, and I'm happy to have been on this council.
Thank you, Jim. Kathryn.
Thank you. I wanted to start by thanking the staff. They've been super attentive. I appreciate the education, your patience, and your continuous progressive planning. I want to also thank Jen Piffner and Gary Riedner, especially when I first came on. You were very full of guidance, and I appreciated that very much. Mostly about process and perspective of how the decisions we make impact the city. And then I'd really like to thank the council, just as Jim said, that I've worked with, and the mayor, for being really invested, residents, and you're really accountable, and you think carefully, and it's nice to work with you because of that. The details that we really pay attention to. And then I really want to thank the residents of Moscow. I've appreciated this opportunity to represent and to work with the people of Moscow and get done some of the projects that are started, and I've really enjoyed doing it. So thank you.
Okay.
Sure, I'm going to get behind me.
Now I get a chance to talk about each one of these, Jim and Kathryn. I'm going to start with you, Jim. Jim Boland, 5 years ago, how it came about that he became a counselor was Tom Lamar had just been recently elected to Latah County Commissioners. And I thought and searched about who I wanted, and of course I had my eyes on this guy ever since I was the mayor. And I've been the mayor of 7 years, so I had a kind of a jump on him. Because Jim Boland and I go back over 40 years ago. And this is back in my Safeway days where the co-op is. I was the store manager there, and Jim was a part-time meat cutter because he was working his way through University of Idaho at that time. And one of the things I've known about Jim Boland is he's a dynamic guy that's incredibly bright, and he doesn't say needless things. When he speaks with not only some authority, but he knows what he's talking about. And so I knew if I could snag Jim to get on council, that he would be a huge asset for this town, as well as our city government here. And when I first went out and sprung it on Jim at his shop, he wasn't that excited about being a part of it.
I think the answer was hell no.
Yeah, and actually, I think the second time I went out there, I think we had to have a couple of beers or something. If I remember right, I thought, well, you know what, I probably ought to take a few brewskis out there and talk to this guy, in all honesty. And there's one thing I can tell you about Jim Boland. If he's going to do something, he's going to do it right. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And he has been an integral part of this community for decades. And I've had the pleasure of knowing him. And, of course, him and I were very young guys back in those days, Jim. We didn't have any wrinkles, gray hair, or we had a lot of hair at that time maybe. But anyways, just having some fun here. Jim, I knew he would take it seriously and he'd do a good job. And the reason he'd do a good job is because he'd be a voice for all of Moscow and not a segment, and I knew that. And Jim and I we can agree on things, we can disagree on things, and we'll work things through. And he talked about strategic planning, priority-based budgeting, and he was the epitome of how this really does work. And you get things accomplished, and it's for the betterment of our city, not the betterment for each individual, but us as a whole. And so with that, Jim, my friend, this is yours.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for your service and your
Bet.
work.
Thank you. Everybody wants to sit down. It's a call.
Now I want to talk about Kathryn Bonzo, and we heard a report from her earlier, just a little bit ago, and I call her the queen of plastic here in Moscow. And I say that lovingly and with some fun, because this lady is the one that really got the thing spearheaded and going when all of our recycling went awry, and all of a sudden we could have very limited plastic. We had all these different plastics, 1 through 10 or 1 through, I'm still not exactly sure what the numbers mean. But Kathryn took it upon herself to really get this thing worked, and through her school have been able to achieve quite a success with us here, and I'm very proud of her for doing it. This is one of the most, this lady gets right in on things, and I'll tell you, when she first became a counselor, I'll never forget, and I'm going to have some fun with this because I'm not going to mention any names other than Kathryn. But Kathryn, when we had an organizational meeting with the council to determine who's going to be the council president, who's going to be the vice president, who's going to be on commissions, it was suggested by one of the more, if you want to use the term, senior counselors, that she would get stuck on whatever it was that was left over for her. And Kathryn immediately came in and seen me, and I loved it, because how you make a change is you stand up for yourself and you do something about it. And this council over these last 4 years has been very excellent about not having a select person entitled to one specific thing. They've rotated things around where they've worked on different commissions, and we've had different council presidents, different vice presidents. And I got to tell you, this last 4 years as a mayor has been great for me, because it's been easy to work with through the strategic planning, priority-based budgeting, because all of these up here get it, and they've been wonderful to work with. And so I want to thank you, Kathryn, for the work you've done. And now I'm going to let your colleagues talk a little bit about you, and I'll start with Randy.
I think you have an award that you wish to give.
Oh, See, I have this, I keep talking, I forget what I'm going to do sometimes too, but here you go, Kathryn. Thank you so much.
All right, I'll follow the order here. Jim, I've known you for many years, and you are one of the most interesting and diversely talented people that I've ever known.
Thank you so much.
You are you all the time, which has made for some pretty fun sound bites over the years. I've admired your ability to set clear, achievable, practical goals, to not get bogged down by the details, to not be dissuaded when things get complicated or slowed down or maybe even seem impossible. You don't buy that. So you have a way of keeping things simple and persisting to accomplish a lot of things. So I've loved that. I'm happy to say, too, that I can thank you for encouraging me to run for city council rather than curse you. So I've enjoyed it, and I think seeing you enjoy it and what you were getting out of it was a big part in that. So thank you for your time and sharing your talents here, and I hope you continue to play at the city staff picnic. Kathryn, I first met Kathryn when my now senior in high school daughter was in preschool. Kathryn was her teacher, and my daughter was here too. So it took me a while to kind of move past thinking of you as Miss Bonzo, but I've really appreciated getting to know you on this different level. Maybe it's the teacher in you, but you have taught me that these meetings are not just about the council deliberating and making decisions, but it's also an opportunity to engage the public and to involve them more in how the city works and what's going on in local government. And I think about those things now in our meetings, that's also what's a very important part of what we're doing when we're up here talking, engaging the public. So thank you for that. I will miss your collaborative and inclusive way of decision-making that, again, maybe comes from your experience in the classroom, but it was a very valued and I think helped us to all have very respectful and collegial discussions, whether or not we agreed. So thank you for all your time and dedication. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buck the system and go with Kathryn first. I want to thank you, Kathryn, for your relentless nature. You get something in your, and I don't think it's your teeth even. It's an idea that you know is for the right reasons, and you just hang on until it gets implemented. And I really admire that. I think this whole plastic recycling thing, I would have dropped off on the side of the road about 6 months ago, and you hung in there. And I really strive for that in my own life. So I appreciate that. And again, we disagree. Similar to Brandy, we have good disagreements and we walk away and we still are okay afterwards. So I appreciate that. Boland, buddy, you're the only person that I know that can have a meeting with beer involved and still make a sound decision at the end of the meeting. My very first experience with you, drinking beer, standing in your business, watching the slaughter occur, and thinking to myself, I really like him. He makes good sense. I can't hear half of what he says because something in the background's making noise, but he's really magnetic. There was something about you that I wanted to keep listening to. So thank you for that. The sage advice. Thank you for the moments, letting me watch what you do for a living. That's kind of cool. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Gene.
Arthur.
I'll start with Kathryn, too. From the very first day when you were sworn in, before you were sworn at, you were in here and did not take no for an answer on anything. You didn't put up with any nonsense from anybody. And so that's one of my best memories of you, is not only standing up for yourself, but changing the outlook and attitude of city council from that point forward, where each person is valued for who they are and not just the junior member and, go away and sit down. And so I very much appreciated that, your fact where you stood up for yourself and did what was right. And you, James, always a turn of phrase that I wish I could say and get away with the way you do. Although you have ruined my running bet of 4 years where you're going to slip and something profane was going to fly forth, and now I'm crushed. I've lost this bet that I've had for 4 years running now. But it's been a joy and a pleasure serving with you. You're practical, always focused on the end result and less on the process, and that's been great. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Last but not least, I hope. I really admire you, Kathryn, and I think in terms of culture on the Moscow City Council, I think you've been a real trailblazer in terms of opening things up and facilitating dialogue and what everyone else has shared this evening. And I think that in terms of a public servant, that you're what everyone should want, and that you stepped up and you said, I'm going to do this for one term because people should be involved. And, it's up to the citizens to make choices and be involved in government, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be in public office, but I just really admire that about you. I think that's really great, and I can tell that you did it for the right reasons. And I think, too, that it's really inspiring that we see you do things as an individual outside of that role, too. I think all of your work this last year shows that you can make a really big impact, again, not even if you're in an elected position, but I think you've done such a wonderful job. Thank you. And you crack me up, and I'm going to miss you a lot. I think that you've done such a wonderful job. I think that you are someone who is able to kind of see everything that's going on and make a succinct judgment call on that. I think you've done a really great job about that. And I can tell, I know I feel this way, that when you say something or share something that it really resonates. And you crack me up. I don't know who's going to be the funniest counselor when you leave. I guess you'll be the funniest one, Bill. In my opinion. I mean, it's a close competition now, maybe, but
Well, we all gotta laugh at ourselves once in a while too, so thank you, man.
I think it's often intentional. Yeah, but I'm just going to miss both of you. I think that you've done a wonderful job.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Boland, Kathryn Bonzo.